trying to sway you cause I ain't got all the answers. I'm just trying to convey to you, I be taking some chances. If my shit don't pertain to you, you can check out your man shit. You ain't teach us a damn thing, you ain't give us the game. We was giving you signals, but you ain't give us
Hi, welcome to another episode of I Don't Have the Answers, but let's talk about it anyway. I'm your host, Tim, the Answer Man 4, and I want to thank you very much for joining. This week, we're going to talk about frogs. Well, sort of. In my family, we have this silly song that I remember my grandmother singing, but now my aunt sings it. And it's always been a silly song that I honestly didn't know the background of it, and I'm guessing that the rest of my family actually has no idea about the history of it, but it is a legitimate song. And it's called A Frog Went a Courting. And there's so many different versions of it. Either one you listen to, it's hilarious. But it's based on the version that we sing is based on a song from the movie from 1941 called Sergeant York. And you'll have to do the history on it yourself. But this week's show is not necessarily about that particular song, rather what it represents. And honestly, it represents a family tradition, a silly family tradition that brings us closer together. We always laugh about it every time that my aunt sings it to my son or to my niece or to any one of our kids. And it makes us just remember the first time we told it, the first time we sang the song, the first time that we talked about it, and every single time, regardless of who's singing it, it just sparks that memory. So why is that important? Well, in an age where so much of who we are is developed by an app or social media or TV, it's those traditions, those things that we fall back on, those family things that will end up being the most meaningful. And I want to share that all of those little things, like getting together on Sunday for dinner, hiding a pickle in the Christmas tree, they all started somewhere as somebody's family tradition. And without them, we're going to forget where we came from. It saddens me to think about the fact that my sons won't have an actual relationship with my grandparents. They won't get a chance to do the things that I did with my grandmother and with my grandfather. I remember in the summertime, we would go up to Homosassa, and where my grandmother lived, and we'd spend a few weeks there every summer. And my grandmother had nothing. She lived in a trailer, and she wasn't the most wealthy as far as money goes. But what she had was adventures. As long as those adventures got her back in time to watch her soap operas, she always was out and about doing something and driving around and getting to know people. And she had her little traditions that she shared with me and with my sisters, and we carry them with us now. And I'm saddened that my son won't get a chance to meet her personally, but happy when I think about the little things that she used to do with her sisters and brothers that I get a chance to do now. Sitting at the head of the table and looking out at everybody gathered around, eating food that was prepared for them by somebody who cares about them, and just telling stories about their day, about what happened at work, and just nonsense like that song. It means that a little bit of my grandmother and my grandfather and their parents is still carrying on and moving forward. So I urge you all to think back, to unplug for a minute, and think back to something that somebody in your family did and shared with you. It can be something small, like singing a little song when you get together. What is it about your past and your family that you can share and make a tradition for your family coming up in the next generations? Think about it. I assure you that once you wrap your mind around it, I'm sure that that's going to come to mind a bunch of different things that you've done and that your family is continuing to do. It's important to make sure that those are documented in some way, be it word of mouth or a letter, or you can start a video project like what I'm hoping to do. Just sharing a bunch of memories on video so that they can be played for the next generation who won't have a chance to see it firsthand. Without these memories, without taking the time to document these traditions, I fear that we're going to lose one of the best things that we've ever had, which is our family heritage. We're blending so much of ourselves right now with one another that the stuff that makes us unique is being lost. I mean, there is quite a possibility that I might be wrong about all this. Who knows? They do say I don't have all the answers. But I'll be glad to talk about it with you anytime. Thank you very much for joining me this week and have a wonderful weekend.
I'm an hero, chimpachero. I'm an hero, chero. Scrattle-ladder-ladder-bobble-ladder-bobble, ring-dum, body Mitchie Cambo. Took Miss Mousy on his knee. Ring-dum, body Mitchie Cambo. Pray, Miss Mousy, won't you marry?
The boy is off Broadway.
Worldwide shit.